24 inches high sliding on Pirellis. This for them Fords, Oldsmobiles, Buicks, and them Chevys. Cadillacs, 24 inches high sliding on Pirellis. Candy coated gloss airbags, lower scrape the belly. Beat in the truck, turning buildings into confetti. Country grammar like Nelly, we speak with a drawl, but slow or something like in our slabs, we creepin' with crowd. Hit a button, you know the roof and screens fall. Jamming screwed up Tila, though we ain't too tired to bow. Root beer candy coated, Caprice flipping like I'm the law. See that shirt on that pop, got enough knock to pop it off. Oh, head cats telling me, Charlie, you need to knock it off. I just did look again, see I'm about to pop the bra. I'm from the dirty third coast where we keepin' it raw. Yo, slabs up against I just think that you're beating us now. Repip your rocker slabs down in the south, be nasty, y'all. Think that it's something, just wait till we pull out them classic calls. Candy paint drip like it was fresh out of molasses jars. Futuristic, got customization is way past the stars.
I got my mind on form, but I'm swinging bumper grill. Got my mind on form, but I'm swinging bumper grill. I'm swinging bumper grill. I'm swinging bumper grill. I'm swinging bumper grill. Bumper grill. I got my mind on form, but I'm swinging bumper grill. Got my mind on form, but I'm swinging bumper grill. I'm swinging bumper grill. I'm swinging bumper grill. I'm swinging bumper grill. Bumper grill.
Ain't no need to asking, boy, yes, I'm a winner, bourbon on 24 with VVS and a spinner, leather seats and my name and diamonds pressed in the center. The only time this whip kick a rest is in the winter. Never a beginner, I'm a ice-stock champ. Leave the bracelet on my wrist and catch an ice-stock crab. I'm a dog and my whoop bargain nothing but free on, cause it's powered by an ice-stock amp. Hold up, Rappy Rick. I'ma slow it down and bring it back for my boy Brandon Chisholm in Tyler, Texas. Remember the first CD I ever got on? Ain't no hoes barred, baby. Ain't no need of asking, boy. Yes, I'm a winner. Bourbon on 24s with VVS and the spinner, leather seats, and my name and diamonds rest in the center. And the only time this whip get caressed is in the winter. Never a beginner, I'm a ice-stock champ. Lift the bracelet on my wrist and get your ice-stock cramp. I'm a dog and my woofers barking nothing but free on, cause it's powered by an ice-stock amp. Platinum princess cuts or invisible sex. Going up against us is like you're making it visible. Bet you can't see us. Envious niggas wanting to be us. Untamed, already out for the chain. You can't free us from the side. Platinum metal, VVS, diamonds in my swinging around in my slab, showing boys what we buy. Think you got anybody better? We'll put up your cheddar, then tell them Charlie boy said get up, go get them and bring them by. Dead's in the Lone Star State, hurting Calvin, motherfucker, everything is still great. Country boy not from the city, but me be making my way, because me grind and me hustle, me making my pay. From no ice to iced up, broadcast to priced up, me slanging CDs in the hood like me or selling white stuff. Multi-million-dollar in the price, keeping the white cup in the palm of me force, and the pound to draw the light up. Clean from head to toe, shine from my ear to my grill. Got pneumonia and got my day and keeping my chest on chill. Southern comfort, come down and see this how we live. Diamonds in our mouth, know what I'm talking about, the price. Man, Rapid Rick, they keep having to call out the mixtape mechanic, man. No.
That's why they call me versatile child. I try to give you a little bit of everything.
Yeah, what's going on, y'all, man? Shalom, Shabbat Shalom to the family out there. Shalom to the Yap Positive gang out there. Yap gang, Source gang, Seven gang, over everything. You know how we rocking, man. We back at it. We back at it. We back in the kitchen and we cooking, man. I got y'all a nice little meal cooked up today. Today's topic is going to be centered around the curse of Canaan and how it was utilized to justify the enslavement of black people in America. So that's what the focus is going to be. Going to be dealing with a book here that was just recently purchased and touch on this topic because a lot of these people that we argue with, a lot of these people that we know today on these different channels are using the Canaanite argument, right? They're using the Canaanite argument to justify who we are, or cement who we are in history and say, oh, you guys are just Canaanites. What are they basing that off of? I want you guys to ask yourself that question. What are they basing it off of? They're basing it off of racist history and etiology. And that's what we're going to bring up, our ideology. This is what we're going to bring up today in today's lesson. They are basing this off of racist history, racist ideology that existed in colonial America, and an ideology that was used to say that all black people were slaves and they deserved to be slaves. You understand? That's what they brought into this earth. And this is what these guys regurgitate and reiterate on their channels, on social media platforms. And we're here to hew that doctrine down. So we're going to get into that source and bring out this information because we got a lot of racists out there. And here's the thing. These people are black. These people are African American and they hold racist sentiments. These people are black and Christian and they hold very evil racist sentiments against black people. Once you start going around calling people Canaanites and saying that they're from Canaan, there is a history behind that, and it's tied to our skin color, which then leads into our enslavement here in America and justifying how they treated us. So we're just going to get into the information. All right. So let's do it with no further ado. And I also want to bring this out. Man, what other channel y'all know rocking like this, man? Y'all gonna have to just give it up and show that love and show that respect. We bringing out source material after source material, books after books, academic approach, and giving you guys a breath of fresh air because we not giving y'all the Wendy Williams show here on the source. We not doing that. At Genesis 49ers, you getting fed, man. You getting fed. Man should not live by bread alone, as they say, right? So we here to give y'all a real meal, man. You know what I'm saying? We stay in the kitchen and we cooking, we working. All right, so let me bring the book out. Shalom to all my brothers. Shout out to all my brothers. Yap Puzzle, Yap gang in the building. You feel me? And we're gonna get right into it. All right, so this is the book right here. David M. Goldenberg, Black Enslaved, The Origins and History of the Curse of Ham. All right, so let's get to it. So what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to read the introduction, then I'm going to go to chapter 9 and read to you guys chapter 9, which deals with the connection with America and how it was used in America to justify the enslavement of blacks. So as you see, we're going to deal with the introduction, which deals with definitions and clarifications, the plan of the book. It gives you some terminology: Kushite, Ethiopian, Sudan, Negro, Moor, and Black African. It goes over his sources and acknowledgments. Then from there, we're going to go all the way to chapter 9, the curse of Ham in America. And this is what prompted and inspired tonight's video. So we're going to jump there after we read the introduction. But I feel that it's very necessary that we first deal with the introduction. Also, every time you get a book, read the prologue. Please read the prologue. I know some people want to skip to chapter 1. Read the prologue, read the introduction. It gives you pertinent information why the author wrote the book, It gives you key terms and stuff to look forward to. So if you're getting books and you're not reading the prologue and you're not reading the introduction, you're doing yourself a disservice. All right. So in the book, here it is, the introduction. Let me make sure this is blown up so everybody can see it. All right. Shalom to the family out there. Shalom, Red. T Red in the building. What it do? Shabbat shalom to Scott. Shabbat shalom to faithful sister Yah. Shari the luminary. Shalom to that sister. Shalom to Maccabees. Yahia, shalom. Elkaim, you already know what's up. That yeah. Yeah, man, you got to read the preface, man, or the preface. You got to read the preface to gain a better understanding and clarity on why the book was written and get, necessary tools to understand the book as you read through it. All right, so now let's get into it. It's blown up on the screen. Everybody should be able to see it. I got the font pretty big, so hopefully everyone can see it. It said this book attempts to reconstruct a history of the curse of Ham, uncovering its origins and following its spread throughout history. The curse of Ham is an origins myth, ideology explaining the existence of black slavery. In the biblical book of Genesis, a drunken Noah accidentally exposed himself. His son Ham sinfully looked at him, and as a punishment, Noah cursed Ham's son with servitude. A servant of servants he shall be to his brothers. Over time, this story was understood to say that black skin was part of the curse. The idea that blackness and slavery are inescapably joined and that the Bible thus consigned blacks to everlasting servitude had its most notorious manifestation in antebellum America. So again, this is what we're going to be discussing tonight. It says where it provided biblical validation for sustaining the slave system, but addition of blackness to Noah's curse of slavery did not begin in America. The curse of Ham has long and involved in history. In this book, I attempt to unravel that history to trace the development of the curse and follow its course over time and space. So again, this is why you should read this. It gives you the reasoning why he wrote this book, and it gives you a narrative to follow. But most importantly, we see that this was used in antebellum America, where it provided biblical validation for sustaining the slave system. So what's happening here, like a lot of these UAs and modern Christians, you're using the same ideology that was used to justify the enslavement of our ancestors. This is not based off of demography, geography, genetics, or none of that. None of that proves that we're Canaanites. It's solely a system. It's solely an ideology to keep blacks subjugated, and you run around teaching blacks and teaching other people that blacks are Canaanites because enslavement, because their skin color. You should be ashamed of your damn selves. The keep reading. It says the Bible says nothing about skin color in the story of Noah, but this feature was somehow woven into the biblical text. And this is what I always talk about, eisegesis. Okay, this is pretty much eisegetical. This is not something that was originally in the Torah or as in the Mikra, as my brother Isaac says. It says in recent years, several scholars, myself included, have attempted to explain how this devastating and patently false interpretation came about. In a work I wrote some years ago, I sought to uncover how the curse of Ham came to be by examining how blacks were portrayed in the Bible and how those biblical texts were interpreted over the centuries by Jewish, Christian, and Muslim writers. I examined how early views of race, color, slavery, and the related meanings assigned to the name of Ham were incorporated into perceptions of the black African, eventuating in the strange interpretation of Noah's curse. All right. It says exegesis does not occur in a historical vacuum. And it's no wonder that the curse of Ham came into being to justify the phenomenon of black slavery. But historical forces and exegetical manipulation were not the only causes. There is a prior history to the curse of Ham. In this work, I show how the curse the etiology of black slavery. And etiology just means the study of how things come about. It's an evolved out of an earlier etiology explaining the existence of dark-skinned people. I was led to this line of investigation when I realized that many contemporary scholars confuse and combine the two separate origin stories, the one of black skin and the other of black slavery. In first part of this work, by means of a close reading of primary sources, I unraveled a separate exegetical and interpretive strands of Noah's story, uncovering their beginnings in the Near East and their reception and dispersion in Europe and America. I explain when, where, why, and how an original mythic tale of black origins morphed into a story of the origins of black slavery, and now in turn the second then supplanted the first as an explanation for black skin. As we follow this process, we shall see how formulations and applications of the curse changed over time, depending on the historical and social context, reflecting and refashioning the way blackness and blacks were perceived. In particular, we discover two significant developments. First, a curse of slavery, which was originally said to affect various dark-skinned peoples, was eventually applied most commonly to black Africans. Second, blackness, which was originally incidental to the curse, in time became part of the curse itself. In second half of the book, I examine how and when the curse spread to Europe. David Bryan Davis once commented how there is little study of the transmission of racist ideas to Europe. He considered the Portuguese royal chronicler Gomes Inês de Serrara, 15th century, as the first in Europe to mention the curse of Ham. This is a common view followed by many investigating the subject. In this work, I show, however, that the transmission of the curse to Europe began well before Zerara, and it continued long after. I engage in this work with much trepidation and humility, for I venture outside the field of Jewish history and beyond the 8th century, the areas and times of my formal historical training. I can make no claim to thoroughness in discovering all relevant primary sources. Undoubtedly, there are more materials dealing with a curse of blackness or a curse of black slavery which have not found their course. This is all, not found their way into later historical studies, and of which I was not therefore aware. And of course, this is all the more true for material still in manuscript in various libraries throughout the world. Nevertheless, I believe that I have sufficiently mined the available sources, on the basis of which I can make the argument of this book. Definitions and clarifications. This book deals with what is popularly but confusingly known as the curse of Ham. It is confusing because it can have different meanings. Further confounding matters is that two other related terms, the Hamitic hypothesis and the myth of Ham, can also have different meanings. And in modern studies, all three terms are often used as synonyms for one another. Now, I want you guys to pay attention what the Hamitic hypothesis is, because a lot of times our ops, our opponents, will try to use the Hamitic hypothesis and say, okay, you guys are teaching Hamitic hypothesis. We do not teach the Hamitic hypothesis. And I'm going to prove to you with the statement that's about to be read. We teach that we come from Shem. We teach that Shem brought forth culture and innovation into Africa and other parts of the world. We do not teach that Ham did it. So there's no way in the world that we can possibly be proponents of the Hamitic hypothesis. If anything, it's a Shemitic hypothesis where we show that E is connected to Shem, and they brought in Proto-Afro-Asiatic agriculture, metallurgy, and stuff of that nature, urbanization, okay? They sowed the seeds of civilization. If you've been following my channel, you pretty much know that material by now. All right, so it says here, let me get the book back up. It says here, the Hamitic hypothesis properly refers to the now discredited theory of physical anthropology that any civilizing tendencies, cultural advances, or technological improvements found in Black Africa derive from a non-Black people known as the Hamites. So first of all, we don't teach that. This is what you tell these people. We don't teach that The technological advances and improvements and civilizing tendencies and cultural advancements don't come comes from a non-black people. We don't teach that, and we don't teach that they were Hamites. So this is a quick cut for anybody that's trying to stick us with the Hamitic hypothesis or saying that we are proponents of it. We are not. It says, as the Hamites, a subgroup, it was believed of the Caucasian race who came from outside of Africa. We don't teach that either. All right, let's keep reading. It says, perhaps the most quoted statement of the theory is that by the anthropologist C.G. Seligman, who wrote in 1930, the history of Africa south of the Sahara is no more than a story of the permeation through the ages, in different degrees and at various times, of the Negroes and the Bushmen by Hamitic blood and culture. The Hamites were, in fact, the great civilizing force of Black Africa. Again, we do not teach this. We teach that Shemites came into Africa via what we call the Bantu expansion and brought in iron, metal, energy, and sowed the seeds of civilization and brought cultural advancement. That's what we teach, which can be proven with archaeology, demography, genetics. What they were teaching, in the early 19th, 20th century, 18th century, was purely based off racism. Okay? It does not comport with history at all. It says, in his book, Black Folk Then and Now, W.E.B. Du Bois countered this hypothesis, which he described succinctly. Africa had no history. Wherever there was history in Africa or civilization, it was of white origin. And the fact that it was civilization proved that it was white, which is a circular argument he was pointing out. And so we don't teach that here at all. Israelites do not teach this. So again, all of our opponents from the other side of the aisle, they have to chill on that. But if they do try to throw the Hamitic hypothesis on you, this is how you respond. First of all, we don't teach that we're Ham. We don't teach that civilization was brought into Africa by Ham. Secondly, we don't say that these were white people that came into Africa and pushed civilization. So it's incompatible with what we teach. Let's keep reading. The myth of Ham has been used to mean almost anything. In the myth of Ham in 19th century American Christianity, where my UA people at, Sylvester Johnson employed the term to mean that the belief that blacks descended from the biblical Ham. So as we're going to find out that this is largely a Christian trope. Oh, you're black. You come from Ham. There's no way you can. Oh, you say you're a Jew. There's no way you're black. You should be a descendant of Ham. Y'all seeing where this stuff coming from, right? The son of Noah. Others use the term synonymous with the curse of Ham. St. Clair Drake used it to refer to the Hamitic hypothesis. This study will not be concerned with the Hamitic hypothesis, nor for the purpose of clarity will I use the term myth of Ham. The curse of Ham is sometimes used broadly in modern writings to designate a punishment, whether or not a curse is invoked, of black skin imposed on Ham without any relationship to slavery. So many of these people, this is my commentary, many of these people that are invoking the false equivocation of Hamites and all black people, solely doing it on the backdrop of black skin being a curse. But as I have proven on my channel time and time again, all extant populations of humans, meaning all surviving humans and hominins on the earth, descend from black people. All of them. The earliest fossil we find in the Levant is black. The Cro-Magnons are black. We showed you Neanderthals were black. We're showing you all of these groups. Chetamans population was black. The Ibero-Maurusians were black. We're showing you that. So clearly, just because you got black skin does not mean you come from Ham. That's common to all of humanity. Let's keep going. It says, this is not how the term is used in this study. The curse of Ham as used here, it refers to belief that Based on the story of Noah's cursing in Genesis 9, blacks have been afflicted with eternal servitude. In other words, the divinely sanctioned combination of black skin and slavery. This belief comes in various forms. It may assume that although the Bible restricts the curse of slavery to Canaan, his father Ham was included in the curse, that Ham is the ancestor of blacks, or that Canaan is that all dark-skinned peoples were affected, or just black Africans were. The blackness began with the curse, or that the one curse was already black, that Noah issued two curses, one of slavery and one of black skin, or that black skin was a consequence of the curse of slavery. The one constant is based on the biblical story. Blacks have been cursed with servitude for all time. So when anybody says you're Ham, and then you respond, how do you know that? They say, well, look at you. It's a racist backdrop to that. It's a racist ideology that many of these Christians were supporting. Let's keep reading. It says, in this study, I use the term curse of Ham without distinguishing these various forms of the curse, with one important exception. Since I attempt to explain how blackness and servitude were combined in interpreting the biblical narrative, it is important to determine whether blackness was believed to have its origin together with the biblical curse of slavery, or whether the one cursed with slavery was black before the curse was imposed. If Ham/Canaan was perceived to have been black before the incident of Noah's drunkenness, the subsequent curse cannot be seen as an ideology of dark skin, which ideology again just means to explain, right? Or the root cause of, okay? So the crucial aspect of this study is the distinction between the two ideologies of blackness and slavery and the subsequent combination of the two. For the sake of precision, therefore, I use the terms dual curse or dual curse of Ham only when blackness is believed to be part of a consequence of Noah's curse. If, on the other hand, Ham or Canaan was considered to have been black before Noah's curse was uttered, or if it's not clear when blackness entered the story, the term curse of Ham alone will be used. This usage differs from that in some modern scholarship where dual curse is used as equivalent to curse of Ham, that is, the combination of blackness and servitude without differentiation as to whether blackness preceded Noah's curse or resulted from it. All right, this is a plan in the book. It says, I begin the study by pointing to a confusion in modern scholarship between an ancient rabbinic ideology of black skin and a biblical ideology of slavery. This leads to an examination and deconstruction of the curse of Ham and its two constituent ideologies of slavery and black skin. I then reconstruct the curse by examining how, when, and why a story of black origins was grafted onto the biblical story of slavery's origins. Ideologies of dark skin are found in several different cultures, some constructed around biblical figures. I examine these ideologies, as well as the tradition that Canaan was the ancestors of blacks. So when anyone says that we come from Canaan because of slavery and black skin, this is the root of it. It says, showing how and why one of these ideologies evolved into Noah's dual curse of blackness and servitude. The how I describe shows how the different forms of the curse evolved as an interpretation of the biblical story. The why explains how historical and social forces gave birth to the different variations of the curse, finally resulting in the dual form, reflecting not only an association of blackness with servitude, but a disparagement of black skin itself. The evolution of dual form of the curse against its historical background is traced from its origins in the Near East to Christian Europe, and from there to America, chapter 9, which is what we're going to deal with tonight. It says, eventually, the dual curse of Ham became a much relied upon ideology, explaining the origins of African skin color irrespective of slavery, replacing other ideologies as the cause of blackness. This resulted in the confusion and conflation of the rabbinic ideology of black skin and the biblical ideology of slavery, which returns us to my initial discussion at the beginning of the book. I show how the confusion of modern scholars between the two ideologies had its beginnings in the 16th century. Having seen how the curse was eventually used to explain African skin color, irrespective of slavery, I then look at other dark-skinned peoples to whom the curse was applied. Chapter 11. The penultimate chapter explores the curse within the conceptual context of meaning of blackness. A concluding chapter summarizes the results of the study. The work is supplemented with 3 appendices and 5 excursus. The appendices list occurrence of the curse of Ham in European and American sources, and the related curse of Cain in both Europe and America. The first excursus is concerned with the question of whether in the rabbinic ideology of blackness, Ham was said to have had sex with a dog, as alleged by some. The second explicates a different passage in the history of the Muslim historian Tabari, dealing with the curse. The third examines the claims of some Canaan was black or the ancestors of blacks. The fourth explores the use of the term Cushite in the medieval Jewish literature to refer to Egyptians or Arabs. Finally, the fifth discusses a much quoted passage in the church father Origen, who appears to subscribe to the belief in the curse of Ham. Origen believes in the curse of Ham. Let's keep reading. Terminology: Cushite, Ethiopian, Sudan, Negro, Moor, Black African. The curse of Ham is divinely approved curse of slavery on blacks. But who are these cursed blacks? In the sources mentioned, the cursed various peoples are identified: Cushites, Ethiopians, Sudanese, Negroes, Moors, Africans, blacks, and black Africans. In ancient Near Eastern literature, Cush designated the area in Africa south of Egypt. In the Hebrew Old Testament, the term Cush usually referred to the same area. And I want to make a side note here. If you've been following the channel, we do not descend from Cushites. And when I say we, I'm talking about African Americans. By and large, African Americans does not descend from ancient Cushites. We have proven on the channel that Cushites would be AM13, haplogroup A and B. And also, we don't all descend from haplogroup A. There's no proof of that. To show that, because that may be someone's talking point, we're going to go to the book DNA Genealogy. In the book DNA Genealogy, first, I want to show you that we don't descend from haplogroup A. Let me go to page 83. Page about 103. We'll go back to 103. I want to go to 83. And I'm going to show you in Clyasol's work, which I quote Clyasol quite a bit. I like the brother's work because he doesn't play by the rules, so to speak. All right. He's not a get along to go along guy. So in the abstract of chapter, what is this? Part 2, we're examining out of Africa theory and the origins of Europeoids, Caucasoids in light of DNA and genealogy. And if you've been watching, you know who the Europeoids are. In our model, Europeoids would be Japhites. Okay? But he says something very interesting. I'm not going to read the entire abstract, but I have the abstract that I want to bring out in the highlighted portion. It says, defining that the Europeoid haplogroups did not descend from African haplogroups A or B is supported by the fact that the bearers of the Europeoid haplogroups, as well as all non-African haplogroups, this includes DE, do not carry either SNPs or SNPs, M91, which is a haplogroup A marker, P97, M31, P82, M23, M114, P262, M32, M59, P289, P291, P102, M13. Ancient Cushites were haplogroup AM13. Mesolithic Kush or Northern Nubia, they found the genes, they found the DNA there, they exhumed the corpse, they sequenced the genome, and majority of the skeletal remains there were AM13. These will be your Hamites. We are not related to Ham. We do not descend from these people. We don't carry the same SNPs or mutations. How do you know you descend from a group? Is your genomic sequence would have these mutations. A haplogroup is nothing more on your Y chromosome than an accumulation of mutations. So if we descend from these people, we should see these mutations. We do not. We don't see M13. We don't see M171. We don't see M118. So we don't all descend from haplogroup A. That's one. And B, we're not related to these people directly. We don't descend from the same paternal ancestors. So when you're dealing with haplogroup D and haplogroup DE, this is a different paternal lineage that comes from a different male ancestor. I hope y'all follow. These would be your Hamites. It says haplogroup A and its subclade SNPs, or M60, M181, P90. This is haplogroup B and its subclade SNPs. We do not have any of these haplogroups. All right. I also want to bring this out as well. So showing and proving that we don't have those SNPs. I want to show you something else that, Clyosov teaches and I support. Of course, y'all know about haplogroup DE, populating from North Africa to West Korea to Japan. But I want to bring out another statement in here before we go back to the meat and potatoes of this, just to show and prove, because we show and prove with DNA. DNA elucidates ancestry. DNA also shows us who our ancestors are, and we clearly are not related to Hamites, which would have had haplogroup A. As I showed you, we don't have any of those mutations in our genome. Right here, as you guys can see, the Middle Eastern haplogroups D and E split 42,000 years before present. The Middle Eastern, we're not Paleo-African. When you look at our haplogroup and our paternal parahaplogroup, Clyosov correctly names it Middle Eastern. He names haplogroups F through R, which includes T, Europeoids. This is exactly how Josephus breaks down the children of Noah. The Proto-Europeans, Japhet. This will be your haplogroup F group. The Middle Eastern haplogroups, DE, this will be Shem in our model. And A and B would be Ham. Now I'm going to go back to the book. So after we cleared that up, because we were dealing with the ancient Near Eastern literature, Cush designated the area in Africa south of Egypt, and I brought out that we have that DNA. I can actually read that source for you guys real quick to show you that we know what DNA the ancient are, the precursors or the progenitors of the ancient Cushites would have had. I'll do this real quick for you. And this is why, if you guys have not joined the Facebook group, you need to join the Facebook group, Genesis 49ers Researchers. If I can get one of the mods to just copy that link and put it in the comments for me so anybody can go join that. We share these sources on there daily, and I update the group daily with new sources and new information. So if you guys are hungry for information, I'm not always making videos, so you need to join the group. Genesis 49ers Resources on Facebook. All right, again, that's Genesis 49ers Resources on Facebook. So what I want to do, I want to go grab this paper real quick, or I just go to, matter of fact, I'll just do this. I'll do this. All you guys can go to Genesis 49ers Resources. I'm going to show you how to get there, right? Go to Facebook, click groups, the group tab. Genesis 49ers. All right. Because I actually posted this source in the group, and I'll just read it from the actual group. Let me share my screen here. See if I can pull it up real quick for you guys and get back to the book. Right here. So the paper is, let me share my screen so you guys can see this. Stop sharing this one. Let's go to Facebook group. Share tab, share Google, Facebook tab. Okay, so here it is. This is the group right here. Facebook group Genesis 49ers Resources. And I shared this on here from cartoonspace.uofk.edu. And the paper is Genetic Patterns of Y Chromosome and Mitochondrial DNA Variation with Implications to the Peopling of Sudan. And in this paper, it says haplogroups AM13 was found at high frequencies among Neolithic samples. Neolithic samples of what? Northern Sudan. So the ancient people or progenitors of the Kushites would have been haplogroup A. And again, as I showed you guys through Clyosov's work on DNA genealogy, page number 83, we do not share the same SNPs, meaning we do not share the same male common ancestors. These will be Hamites. We are Shemites. We come from E, which comes from DE, which our lineage stretched from North Africa all the way to Japan. All right. And it says FM89 and YAP appear to be more frequent among the Meroitic and post-Meroitic and Christian periods. So you don't start seeing a lot of FM89, which again is Japhet and Yap and Shem, until later periods. The Meroitic. That's going more towards the common era that we live in now, and the post-Christian periods. But prior to that, going back to the Mesolithic, the Middle Stone, you only see AM13. These are your real Hamites. And again, that paper is Genetic Patterns of Y Chromosome and Mitochondrial DNA Variation and Implications to the Peopling of Sudan. Ibrahim Muntazer is the one who did the research and exhumed and sequenced the genomes. And again, Khartoum Space is the source. All right, so let's go back. Let's go back to the book, and we're going to finish the introduction. Again, Genesis 49ers Resources is a vital source if you guys want to get source updates throughout the week. Back to the book. In ancient Near Eastern literature, Cush designated the area in Africa south of Egypt. In the Hebrew Bible, Old Testament, the term Cush usually referred to the same area. And we just brought up the DNA there. We know who these people were. Originally, these Hamites would have been haplogroup AN13. We do not descend from these people. Okay? Just want to make sure that that's hammered in your head. Ezekiel 29:10, for example, indicates that the border between Egypt and Cush was at Syene, equal Aswan, by the first cataract. This border is reported for a long time and is mentioned inter alios by the Greek geographer Strabo in the church father Origen. The geographic identification of Cush south of Egypt continued into post-biblical Jewish and early Christian literature. Examples from late antiquity would include Josephus, who says that biblical Cush is represented by the Ethiopians of his day, and Jerome, who echoed Josephus' comment, up to the present day, Ethiopia is called Cush by the Hebrews. In Muslim sources, we find that the same identification of Cush as the area of Africa south of Egypt. All right. In the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, which began in the 3rd century BCE, the term Cushite was rendered Ethiopia, Ethiopia. The traditional etymology of which is burnt face, i.e. dark skin, from the Greek to Latin and from there to modern languages. Ethiopia thus came to mean Black Africa. Consequently, we find that in latter Christian sources. The term Ethiopia, adopted from the biblical usage, regularly has this meaning in non-biblical context as well. So too, the term Cushite in later Jewish sources usually meant Black African. In the time, the term Ethiopian in Greco-Roman sources was broadened to include other dark-skinned peoples. Now watch this part right here. Similarly, Cushite in post-biblical Jewish sources, if not already in the Bible, was extended in a transferred sense to refer to various dark-skinned groups, such as Arabs and Egyptians, and to individual dark-skinned people, including even some Jews. And to individual dark-skinned people, including even some Jews themselves. I know it's a lot of people that's watching with that racist ideology, and your skin just started to crawl when I read that. Your heart rate started to increase. and your stomach start to hurt. You're starting to be, I'm feeling nauseous. Because you racists hate whenever we see a source that equates dark skin with Jews. Y'all hate that. So I'm going to read it again. It says, let me read it from the top. It says, in the time, the term Ethiopian in Greco-Roman sources was broadened to include other dark-skinned peoples. Similarly, Cushite and post-biblical Jewish sources, if not already in the Bible, was extended and transferred since to refer to various dark-skinned groups such as Arabs and Egyptians into individual dark-skinned people, including even some Jews themselves. All right. I know I sent somebody to the hospital with that one. Let me go down to the annotations here. It says, regarding dark-skinned Jews, the names Ethiopia and Aswad, both meaning black, recorded on Jewish tombstones of the late 1st century BCE to early 1st century CE. So we have physical attestation of these dark-skinned Jews, or these Jews being regarded as Ethiopian or Ethiopia, which means black face, or Aswad, which means black. That's physical evidence of black Jews. There's no way around that. Okay? And you even have an inscription on ossuary that says Niger, which we see, or nigger, or however you want to say, a nigger, however you want to say it in the Latin, which we see also in the book of Acts, describing a Jew. There's more examples of that. So it says, are intriguing, although we cannot be sure that these names do not refer to Jewish black Africans. So too, an ossuary from Jerusalem is possibly inscribed Niger or Niger. So we can clearly see with these tombstones that you have Jews being designated as being black. What's going to be the excuse this damn time? You guys hate seeing the word black next to Jew. But we see it on the tombstone. We see Aswad, we see Ethiopia or Ethiopia on the tombstones of Jews. Let's keep reading. The same ambiguity applies to other terms mentioned in this work. The Arabic word Sudan, singular Aswad, which literally means blacks, you know, that word that was associated with Jews on the tombstones, can indicate a variety of dark-skinned peoples, usually but not exclusively from Africa. Negro and black, found in late medieval and early modern European literature, also cannot always be identified with a specific ethnic group or geographic location. Rather, the term indicates color, and that the color encompasses a range of dark skin, including dark brown to medium brown. Although Negro and black usually refer to black Africans, they were also used to describe the natives of the New World, East Indians, and others. And this also kills that Ham means all the progenitor of all dark people, when we can clearly see there's multiple groups that are dark skinned. You can't just pin that on one individual or one group. So even when referring to black Africans, the term were used to describe every conceivable combination of Central African, Ibero-African, Afro-Arabic, and American African mixtures. More originally referred to someone from the Roman province of Mauritania in Northwest Africa. In the Middle Ages, the term came to indicate the North African or Berber Muslims who had conquered Spain, and later any Muslim. In addition, by extension of skin color and geographic contiguity, more was applied also to non-Muslims in the Western Sahara and Sub-Saharan Africans as well. For example, the anonymous Pseudo-Jerome Christian work, The Cosmography of Atticus Eyster, we have seen the Moors, Morenos, Ethiopian Africa, the offspring of Ham from Cush and his descendants. Similarly, a 13th century illustrated manuscript of Alfonso the Wise Contingas depicts a number of black African figures who are always identified as Moors. Sometimes the terminology is made more specific with the term black Moor or blackamoor to distinguish the sub-Saharan Moor from the North African Moor. In short, all these terms, Cushite in Jewish sources, Sudan and Arabic sources, and Negro, black, black African, Ethiopian, Moor, and Christian sources are ambiguous in meaning. They usually refer to darker skinned Africans, but not exclusively so. This being the case, how in this study can I speak of black with any degree of clarity? Furthermore, from the viewpoint of physical anthropology, the term black or even black Africans as designating a particular racial group has no validity. There is no such reductionist racial essence that can be subsumed under these terms, and yet the terms continue to be used in the wider world to indicate different populations from sub-Saharan Africa. Similarly, in the medieval and latter sources investigated in this book, these terms refer to sub-Saharan Africans, although as I said, this is not always the case. It's usually so. My uses of the term black in this study, therefore reflecting the sources being discussed, refers to sub-Saharan darker skinned African unless otherwise indicated. All right, let's deal with the sources. The source upon which this study is built derive from Christian, Jewish, and Muslim authors. The Christian authors, for the most part, present what they say in their own names. When they do quote on earlier authors, the quotation can usually be verified in the writings of the quoted author. The Jewish and Muslim sources, on the other hand, often transmit traditions in the names of earlier sages, sometimes going back centuries, which often cannot be confirmed because we do not have the earlier writings or because these traditions were never put into writing but were handed down orally. This is what I was talking about on Clubhouse. I know everybody wasn't privy to this conversation, but a lot of that racist rhetoric that sounds like medieval racism starts to formulate and matriculate in Jewish doctrine around the 9th century. Now, you don't have a written Midrash, Gemara, none of that before the 9th century, okay? You don't have that. What we see in the 9th century, a lot of these racist ideas are starting to formulate and find its way in the Gemara and the Midrash and the Talmud, but you didn't have a written Talmud, written Midrash until the 9th century. So we can't even verify that these are the things that were being taught prior to. Do y'all follow me? We can't even verify it because we don't have an original manuscript of the Midrash. We don't have an original manuscript of the Talmud, so on and so forth, the Gemara. All right, so let's get back to this. It says, furthermore, studies of the chain of tradition, the Isnad, and Islamic texts have questioned the authenticity of such attributions. The same question of authenticity applies also to Jewish texts where a chain of tradition is similarly found, although it is usually not as lengthy. A similar question arises when an individual is quoted in a text first redacted centuries later. Do we accept the authenticity of an attribution to, say, a 3rd century individual, which is first recorded in 6th century text? In this book, when considering the original author of a tradition, I make no claim as to authenticity. I merely use this system as a conversion to compile a relative chronological framework of the various traditions. In any case, I supply dates for both the original author, those who transmitted the tradition, and the work in which we find it finally recorded. When often a historical context for a particular tradition, all three are taken into consideration. Then he gives his acknowledgments. It is in the nature of research that one learns of many primary sources through the scholarship of others. This is especially the case in a work such as this, which encompasses a wide time span and geographic diversity. It's a pleasure for me to acknowledge my indebtedness to several scholars from whose studies quoted throughout this work. I learned of many of the sources on which my own work is based. Winthrop Jordan, Thomas Peterson, Stephen Haynes, Sylvester Johnson, Colin Kidd, Jonathan Scorch, Benjamin Broad. Y'all remember Jonathan Scorch? I dealt with his paper on a video dealing with Jewish blackness and being actually somatically black, meaning in appearance, not esoteric, not metaphoric. I quoted his works when I brought that out. And he actually said that it seemed that light-skinned blacks were the Jews in Jamaica. Check that video out if you haven't seen it yet. Anyway, Benjamin Broad, Werner Solers, John Block Friedman's work on the monstrous races was a major resource for chapter 2, where I deal with this topic. Lastly, Paul Claflin's works were helpful for their discussion of artistic portrayals of blacks. This work could not have been accomplished without the magnificent resources of the libraries at the University of Pennsylvania. I am more grateful to the staff for their help in tracking down and making available obscure material. In this work, I have relied heavily on printed books from the 16th and 18th centuries. The access to these works has been made immeasurably easier during the last decade or so, with many of the books being put online. Amen to that, right? I am amazed at how quickly and extensively printed out works from the 16th century onwards have been digitized, access to which is easily gained through various American and European databases. And in only a few instances out of hundreds did I not find the work online and had to trek to a rare book room. For my earlier research conducted in the 1990s, I was a regular visitor to the Rare Book Room at the University of Pennsylvania. For this work, I visited Penn's Rare Book Room but a few times during several years of research. Another great help to my work has been Google's digitization of early and modern printed works. This too has been a considerable help in reducing my need to rely on trips to libraries and has consequently sped up the act of research. Most unfortunately, threats of legal action against Google have resulted in reduced ability to do full searches on scanned modern material. This may be a boon to copyright owners, but it's a serious impediment to researchers. I am indebted to my friends Mark Smith and Arthur Chiron for reading through an early draft of this work, making valuable suggestions which help shape the finished product. Academics often ask colleagues to review and comment on books' manuscripts before sending it off to a publisher. In my case, I chose wisely. Never have the words of Ecclesiastes 7:5 rung truer for me. It is better to hear the rebuke of the wise than to hear the song of fools. Mark's and Arthur's wise rebukes uncovered faults and led to what I hope is a much improved work. I also wish to thank the readers at the Grutter, especially Barry Wallfish, a member of the editorial board of the Studies in the Bible in the Reception series, for the valuable comments. All right, so we got through the introduction and we got through his acknowledgments. I want to read, before we go to chapter 9, I want to read this highlighted portion right here for a particular reason. It says, in chapter 1, it says, the idea that blackness and slavery were joined by God served as an ideological foundation stone of the South's peculiar institution. The influential African-American minister and abolitionist Alexander Crummell stated in 1850 that no argument has been so much relied upon and none more frequently adduced. I want you guys to understand that this argument for Ham, this argument that blacks are Hamites and Canaanites, was widely used, especially in the antebellum South, to justify slavery, to get us to make us look denigrated, right? To make us hate our skin color. And to this day, you have Christian groups still regurgitating this hateful, spiteful doctrine. All right, now let's get into chapter 9. Let's get into chapter 9. Somebody gonna get that work today. Somebody getting that.
Let me work. Please let me work. Get that water. He about to get this work. He about to get this work. Hold up. Hold up. He gonna get this work. He gonna get this work. Hold up. He gonna get this work. He gonna get this work, nigga. I killed you. Hold up. He gonna get this work. Hold up. Hold up. You niggas gonna get this work, you hear me? Me. He ain't even get the second verse, but he gonna get this work. Hold up, man. He gonna get this work. He gonna get this work. He gonna get this work. Hold up, man. Let me work. He gonna get this work, nigga. Watch me work. He gonna get this work. He gonna get this work. Yeah, he gonna get this work. Hold up. He gonna get this work.
All right, all right. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yeah. Well, all my brothers to sound off, man. We about to get into it. Curse of Ham in America. So I want everybody that's watching this to realize the doctrine, the hateful, spiteful doctrine that made you disparage your skin color is being regurgitated to this day by Christian groups. Think about that. Black Christian groups are regurgitating, oh yeah, we're Hamites, we're Canaanites. This is why we were enslaved. Like, this is what they're teaching. And examine what we teach on our channels. We teach that we are Shemites. That's something special about our bloodline. And that we actually contributed to humanity as a whole because we introduced and sowed the seeds of civilization in the Neolithic Revolution. But they want to reduce us to a curse of Ham and a curse of Canaan, which has its roots in medieval Christendom and racism, in the justification of the enslavement and mistreatment of our ancestors. But these groups want to continue to reiterate and regurgitate these talking points. And we're going to give you the history right here. Let's get into it. Chapter 9, the curse of Ham in America. From Europe, the curse of Ham came to America, where it is mentioned as early as 1700 in the Critique of Slavery by the Massachusetts judge Samuel Sewall. He refuted the claim that these blackamoors are of the posterity of Ham and therefore are under the curse of slavery. A glance at the appendix 2 below will show that the references to the curse in America were commonly made from then onward. Continuing into our own times. You still got Negroes teaching this. UA, Vocab Malone, James White, these people are still teaching this. And seeing what type of ugly, evil, wicked history that's tied to it. At a glance, Appendix 2 below will show the references to the curse in America were commonly made from then onward, continuing into our own times, with its heaviest use, the 19th century. It is likely that the British colonies in America received the curse of Ham from England, just as France and Spain were the sources for the transmission of the idea to the Spanish and French territories in the New World. Appendix 1 lists the many English writers from the 18th, 19th centuries who espouse this commonly accepted view in Christian Europe. Once you learn this history, why in the hell would you continue to reverberate this in the earth? When you find out the use behind it, the reason behind it, and who actually supported it. Why? Because these people are racist them damn selves. I don't care what skin color they are, they racist, and they're latching on to a racist ideology. It says, and it should not occasion surprise if the curse came to Anglophone America along with its English settlers. Some have thought that in addition there may have been another source. We saw earlier that the Swiss Orientalist Johann Heinrich Heidegger and the French Orientalist Bartholomew Herbelot quoted Arabic sources for the curse of Ham idea. We saw as well that the French Benedictine Augustine Calmet in turn quoted Herbelot in his Dictionnaire de la Bible. Calmet was then quoted by Thomas Newton, Bishop of Bristol and chaplain of King George II, who was in turn quoted by the American clergymen Philip Schaff and James Sloan. The line of transmission was thus: Herbelot, Calmet, Newton, Schaff, Sloan, Thomas Peterson, thought that Newton was referring to Calmet's dictionary with its curse of Ham quote from the Arabic source, which thus played a role in the transfer of the curse idea to America. Whitford, however, has shown that Peterson was mistaken and that the Newton was actually quoted from another of Calmet's works. His commentary on the Bible, Commentaire, literal, Sir Toy. I can't speak French, so I'm going to skip that part. Basically, a commentary of the New Testament. It said, in this work, Calmet did not mention the curse, but argued for reading Genesis 9:25 as curse be Ham, father of Canaan, rather than the traditional curse be Canaan. Newton's argument that the verse should be read as a prophecy and that the prophecy was directed against Ham became very influential in American thought. But as Whitford said, it did not refer to the dual curse of Ham. It is possible that Newton's quotation of Calmet's Commentaire led people to Calmet's other work, the Dictionnaire, in which the Arabic source for the curse is mentioned. Newton himself referred to the Dictionnaire elsewhere in his works. Perhaps we can see a similar use of both of Calmet's work in an anonymous article examining the legality and explicitity of keeping slaves, published in the May 1758 edition of the American Magazine and Monthly Chronicle for the British colonies. There it is stated that Ham's whole race in the person of Canaan in his posterity Noah cursed and predicted of slavery in subjection under the offspring of Shem and Japheth, upon which, as an Oriental fable reports, their skin became black on a sudden. The reference to Noah's prediction presumably indicates a reliance on Calmet's Commentaire, and the reference to the Oriental fable, possibly also the expression on a sudden. A reliance on Calmet's other work, the Dictionnaire. In any case, the Dictionnaire was very popular. Having gone through several editions in both in original French and in its English translations, which was widely available in America, it was also translated in Latin and the major European languages. Benjamin Browd writes that the article on Ham's Calmet's Dictionary was the single most important statement on the curse ever published because of the authoritative character and the longevity of the book. If it is thus possible that Calmet's Dictionary played a role in transmitting the curse of Ham to America, there is, however, little direct evidence to support this claim. Thus far, I found only one writer who quoted the dictionary directly for support of the idea, the anonymous author of the African Servitude, When, Why, and By Whom instituted, 1860. Be that as it may, the curse of Ham found a ready home in America where it was regularly relied upon. Its popularity is seen not only by those accepting its veracity, but also by the number of those who felt the need to reject it. Arguments against the curse were made from various positions. Most, like Sewall, argued on scriptural grounds that Canaan, not Ham, was the one cursed by Noah, and Canaan was not considered to be the ancestor of blacks. The Quaker Ralph Sandiford, like others, argued against those holding that Canaan was the black ancestor, pointing out that the Canaanites had been destroyed according to the Bible and no longer existed. Others used moral reasoning in an essay published by Benjamin Franklin in 1762, but written some years earlier. The Quaker John Woolman contemptuously dismissed the curse of Ham argument this way. It says, to suppose if the right that an innocent man shall at this day be excluded from the common rules of justice, be deprived of that liberty which is the natural right of human creatures, and be a slave to others during life on account of a sin committed by his immediate parents, or a sin committed by Ham, the son of Noah, is a supposition too gross to be admitted into the mind of any person who sincerely desires to be governed by solid principles. So as we're seeing, we had certain proponents that were against this Hamite lie and Hamite myth that was trying to be, it was being pushed, and it was common in early America to justify what? The enslavement and the treatment of our ancestors. It says right here, in a clever place, an anonymous African-American, 1859, relied on logic and humor. He said, we know it's customary to quote the curse of Canaan against us to prove our blood contaminated. But Noah's curse could not have amounted to much as against us, especially seeing that both Asiatic and European branch of his family have repeatedly been in servitude. And I want to stop there and give commentary on that. And that's another dagger to anybody saying, well, oh, all we have to do is look at people being in servitude. Well, wait a minute. A lot of people, the Slavs were in servitude. You understand? The Yamnaya came in and subjugated the early people of Europe. And we can go on and on and on and invoke these. The Han dynasty put many of the locals of East Asia into servitude. So servitude is not an automatic genetic marker that ties you to the sons of Ham or Canaan. That's what this brother was bringing out in 1859. He was poking holes in a flawed theory. Let's keep reading. The author went on to speak of the curse of Canaan for Ham's sins. This was a very doubtful justice, to say the least of it, and concluded that Noah had no right after a drunken carousal to curse anything except the wine that had fuddled him. The argument that Noah's drunkenness invalidated his curse was leveled by other African-American writers as well. Samuel Ringgold Ward, who escaped slavery with his parents and became a newspaper editor, minister, and advocate for abolition, wrote in 1855. I know that curse be Canaan is sometimes quoted as if it came from the lips of God. Although, as Reverend H.W. Beecher says, and as a record reads, these are but the words of a newly awakened drunken man. There was about as much inspiration in these words as there might have been anything said by Lot on the two very disgraceful nights in his existence. As in Europe, the dual aspect of the curse is commonly found in America. Perhaps the most extensive description of the physiological changes caused by this aspect of the curse was written by Nashville publisher Buckner Payne Ariel. Payne sought to prove that blacks were not human, they were beasts, and therefore did not descend from Ham. This is another doctrine, too, you got to be careful of, where they say blacks from Africa or Negroes are the beasts of the field. And this is what Ron Shields was trying to show us. Divine Prospect was bringing this out years ago because people will run to the Zondervan where the Zondervan says Ham is the father of all the African nations or something to that effect, but not the Negroes. And most people are like, oh, it says not the Negroes there because they know the Negroes are Shem. Actually, the Zondervan was actually calling back to this doctrine here that we're not even of Ham, Shem, or Japheth, we're the beast of we are the beast of the field. So you have to be mindful of that doctrine as well. That was being taught. It wasn't as popular as the Hamite doctrine, but it was being taught. All right, so let's get back to the reading. It says, in setting out his arguments, however, he first took notice of the prevailing errors now existing in all their strength and held by the clergy and many learned men to be true, among which was the curse of Ham, which he described this way: the curse denounced against him, that a servant of servants should be unto his brethren, and that this curse was denounced against Ham for the accidental sin of his father Noah naked, that this curse was to do so and did change him, so that instead of being long, straight-haired, high forehead, high nose, thin lips, and white, as he then was, and like his brothers Shem and Japheth, he was from that day forth to be kinky-headed, low forehead, thick lip, and black skin, and that his name and the curse affected all of this. Just as the curse of slavery was refuted by different arguments, so too was the curse of blackness. Some resorted to scientific arguments. 1744, John Mitchell, a physician and botanist born in colonial Virginia, investigated the causes of different colors of people in different climates and concluded that the original color of humanity was a shade between black and white, from which both black and white degenerated. Although white people seem to have degenerated more from primitive and original complexion of mankind and Noah and his sons than even the Indians and Negroes. In arguing his case, Mitchell referred to the curse. The black color of the Negroes of Africa, instead of being cursed, denounced on them on account of their forefather Ham, as some have idly imagined, is rather a blessing, rendering their lives in their intemperate region more tolerable and less painful. Perhaps the best refutation of all, as it is often the case, was by the use of satire. In his story, The Fall of Adam, 1886, the biracial American novelist and short story writer Charles Chestnut has brother Lehigh Gatson say regarding the color of blacks: I be fletching the subject over a long time and asking about it, but nobody seems to know nothing certain about it. Some say that it's the curse of Canaan. I'm reading this because this is how it's written. It says, but I never couldn't understand about this here curse of Canaan. I can't see how the Lord could turn anybody black, yes, by cursing them. Because for I find the church that was for the war, I used to curse curse the overseer. So basically saying I don't see a curse turning anybody a different color because I used to cuss at the overseer when I was a slave. That's what that says. And he didn't, I guess he's saying he didn't change no damn color. It says on all Mar's plantations awful bad when he wasn't there. And all the darkies on the plantation used to cuss him. And it didn't make at least changes in his complexion. All right. So like I said, that was supposed to be satirical from ex-slaves saying that, hey, if a curse changed your skin color, could they think cussing the same thing? The slave master should have had their skin changed. All right, let me keep reading. It says different refutations of the curse are indicative of its popularity, especially of the dual curse variety. Of the 80 instances listed in Appendix 2 below, where the curse is mentioned during the 18-20 centuries in America, 18th through the 20th centuries in America, only 8 understand blackness as preceding Noah's curse. 40 believe or record the belief that it originated in Noah's curse, to which number we can undoubtedly add many from the large amount of ambiguous cases. Belief in the dual curse is depressingly seen in its acceptance even among some black slaves. From 1936 to 1938, the New Deal program, known as the Federal Writers Project, employed workers to conduct interviews with former slaves. The WPA Slave Narrative Collection. Among the interviews, a few mentioned the curse, among which is the statement by Gus Rogers, a former slave from Alabama. You know, miss, Noah had 3 sons, and when Noah had got drunk on wine, one of his sons laughed at him, and the other 2 took a sheet and walked backwards and threw it over Noah. Noah told the one who laughed, your children will be hewers of wood and drawers of water for the other 2 children, and they will be known by their hair and their skin being dark. So, miss, there we are. And that is the way God meant us to be. We have always had to follow the white folks and do what we saw them do. And that's all there is to it. You just can't get away from what the Lord said. And you know what's crazy about this? That this ex-slave said this and he believed it and adopted it from these Christians that was, pretty much bludgeoning him with this. To this day, you still have descendants of slaves going around teaching this. Yeah, I'm a Hamite, and this is why this happened. I'm a Canaanite. This is why this happened. Now you see the root. Now you see where this comes from. All right, which is crazy because they don't want to claim Shem, but they want to claim this racist, hateful, disparaging doctrine. That's what they want to claim. Think about that. This is what they were leading our people to believe this. That we deserve to be subjugated and that our skin color is a curse. Like this ex-slave was believing. He believed being dark, having dark skin, was the result of a curse. Let's keep reading. It says, another former slave, Lizzie Grant, after giving some details of her life, I was born in Dunbar, West Virginia in the year 1847 and was owned by Ellis Grant, cousin to the great Grant that was the Northern General, told the WPA interviewer. You know, son, we have been servants to the rest of the world ever since old Noah's son laughed at his father's nakedness, and God turned his flesh black and told him for that act his sex would always carry a curse, and that they would be servants of the people as long as this old world in its present form remained. As you can see, these slaves were indoctrinated. Where did they learn this from? These Christians. Who are we hearing this doctrine from now? Modern Christians. They are regurgitating this doctrine of Ham and Canaan. And they're teaching our children this, that you are a Hamite and you were enslaved because of that. And not only that, you are black because of the curse from Noah. Let me keep reading. It says, in America, as in Europe, the popularity of the dual curse is a reflection of the increasing denigration of dark skin. Let me read that again. In America, as in Europe, the popularity of the dual curse is a reflection of the increasing denigration of dark skin. This is dramatically seen in the description of the curse of blackness by James A. Sloan, which easily rivals Emmerich's vision in its vilification of the black. Sloan, a Presbyterian minister from Mississippi, wrote in 1857, Ham deserved death for his unfilial and impious conduct. But the great lawgiver saw fit in his good pleasure, not to destroy Ham with immediate death, but to set a mark of degradation on him. All Ham's posterity are either black or dark colored, and thus bear upon their countenance the mark of inferiority which God put upon the progenitor. Black, restrained, despised, bowed down are the woods used to express the condition in place of Ham's children, bearing the mark of degradation on their skin. So when we see, and this is my commentary, y'all, this is not the book. When we see people teach this today, these are the sentiments that come with it. Because if you're saying that your skin color is the result of a curse, you're saying that your skin color is a negative thing because you got it and gained an attribute and physical trait through the act of a curse. And a curse is negative. It's denigrating. So this is what we see here. So why is the UA teaching this? Why are you people like G. Khan teaching this, LaRon teaching this? They are spewing racist rhetoric. Let's keep going. Emmerich's portrayal was informed by the Christian interpretation of biblical black personalities as representing evil and sin, which I discussed in an earlier work and briefly reviewed below in chapter 12. The minister Sloan was presumably also aware of the exegesis, but the intensity of Sloan's description seems to me to go beyond an exegetical interpretation of blackness and reflects the reality of how the black African was perceived in the American South. So when we're reading about antebellum South and the treatment by the Dixiecrats, and them trying to hold on to slavery after the Union wanted to end it, this is why. This was a key component to why. Because they were pushing the curse of Ham, and they believe we deserve to be enslaved. It says the association between the dual curse and the degradation of the black is clearly seen in American writings during the period of slavery. Just as there was in Europe increasing interest in origin of black skin color, for which the curse served as an explanation, so too was this case in America. Sylvester Johnson even claims that the 19th century America, this was the most common use of the curse. The biblical account of Noahic descent was primarily understood to account for Negro origins, and Ham was the progenitor of the Negro race. The idea of a curse and association between Ham and slavery were not the most important themes. First and foremost, the Noahic account answered the originary concerns of not only ethnologists and religionists, but also any other general publics who posed the pressing question, from whence came the Negro? But I question the assertion, for I find the majority of those resorting to the curse in America do so to justify black slavery. For I find that majority of those resorting to the curse in America do so to justify black slavery. So this is the author telling you from his research, when he finds the curse of Ham being invoked in antebellum America, being invoked in America, period, or colonial America, it was for the primary purpose of justifying blacks being enslaved. I hope y'all are at least notate that. It says, in fact, this is one of the noteworthy differences that I see between Europe and America. Comparison appendices 1 and 2 shows that the number of those resorting to the curse to justify black slavery, as opposed to explaining dark skin alone, is considerably greater in America than in Europe. We see the same disparity between Europe and America in regard to the curse of Cain. In Europe, the curse of Cain overwhelmingly cited to explain blackness, not black slavery. In America, it was also used as often to explain and justify black slavery. The role of black slavery in America and the importance of biblical justification for it are reflected in these statistics. Earlier, we looked at medieval examples of the belief that God darkened Cain, who became the ancestors of blacks. According to the biblical account, after Cain killed his brother Abel, God put an unspecified mark on Cain so that no one who found him would kill him. Genesis 4:15. Some interpret that mark to be dark skin. From the early 17th in through the 18th and 19th centuries, we commonly find the idea in European and American writings. And it even continued into the mid-20th century as an argument for segregation. Unlike the story of Noah's curse of Ham/Canaan, the biblical story of Cain says nothing about slavery. Consequently, those who would wish to bind blackness to slavery needed to introduce the element of servitude. And they so primarily by arguing that Ham married into the line of Cain, or that Canaan was of the lineage of Cain. Now you see why you see doctrines like this. Oh, Cain's lineage lives through Cain or Canaan. All of this was a justification of black slavery, enslavement just because someone was black. Oh, well, Cain has a mark, he's black. Oh, Canaan was cursed, he's black. Matter of fact, that was a result of the curse. So being black is a bad thing. This is what was being taught. This was the reasoning behind it. Mari, that's not the subject of today's topic. Stay on subject. Let me keep reading. It says the marriage connection between lines of Cain. Where are we at? Right here, my bad. Other explanations were also advanced. Some who associated Cain's presumed mark of blackness with slavery merely asserted that association without specifying how it came about. The marriage connection between the lines of Cain and Ham is not mentioned in the Bible. It is strained reading into scripture, which served to support the institution of black slavery. So too is the curse of Ham a forced interpretation, and not only because there is no mention of skin color in the biblical story. According to the Bible, Canaan was the one cursed with slavery, but Canaan was neither genealogically nor geographically related to black Africa. A common argument of the abolitionists and anti-slave writers was precisely that. In the Bible, only Ham's son Canaan was cursed with servitude, while blacks descended from another of Ham's son Cush, as one writer, Jacob L. Stone, wrote. The supposed prophecy consigning the African race to bondage is founded upon a demonstrable mistake. James Pennington, African-American abolitionist, former slave and Presbyterian minister, sarcastically suggested that the slave owners would have a stronger argument if they were to find and enslave the Canaanites. W.E.B. Du Bois may have complained with what characteristic complacency did the slaveholders assume that Canaanites were Negroes, but assume they did. The reason is obvious. It justified and supported the institution of black slavery, since it was Canaan who was cursed with slavery in the Bible, making him black underscored the connection between blacks and servitude. So W.E.B. Du Bois is showing again that Americans were invoking the curse of Canaan to justify black slavery. In American writings, especially, one can see the emphasis on Canaan. Some examples would include an incorrect reference to Thomas Newton's dissertations on the prophecies in the Annals of Congress of 1818. This very African race are descendants of Canaan. David Lee Child, a Massachusetts abolitionist, explaining the slave's position, the curse pronounced upon Canaan, which was still clinging to the poor Ethiopians, his descendants. The southern eccentric John Jacobus Flournoy, another race of blacks, the Canaanites. The Baptist minister from Virginia, Thornton Stringfellow, Canaanites are Africans. The widely read anti-black author Josiah Price, the Negro or Canaanite slave. The pro-slavery Baptist minister and teacher Iverson L. Brooks, the Canaanitish or African race. The Tennessee Methodist minister Samuel Davis Baldwin, Negroes are of the stock of Canaan, a section entitled Negro Type from Canaan. Negroes are lineal descendants of Canaan. The anonymous HOR, these Negroes are descendants of Ham or Canaan. In the Lutheran pastor William Dahlman, the Negro is the leading living descendant of Ham and Canaan. Probably the starkest example of this emphasis on Canaan is found in the work of Samuel A. Cartwright. So before I continue, I want you guys to notate all of these authors and all of these works that were created and aimed to show and prove that we were Canaanites, to justify the mistreatment and enslavement. Y'all see that? He just listed off quite a few sources, all right, that were, and proponents that were in support of this ideology. And like I said, to this day, we still see people pushing it. Samuel A. Cartwright, an influential pro-slavery physician from New Orleans. No one was more insistent on the Canaan connection to blacks than he. An examination of his varied writings shows the numerous times he argued that blacks are descended from Canaan. Even Frederick Dalco, a physician and minister in South Carolina, who accepted an Arabic version of the Bible, which has Ham and not Canaan cursed with slavery, nevertheless emphasized that particularly the Canaanites were cursed with slavery and blackness. At a later period, after the abolition of slavery, the belief in black Canaanites was used to argue for segregation. For the Bible often forbade the intermarrying of Israelites with the black races of Canaan. As Du Bois' comment indicates, many American writers assumed that they had in fact found and enslaved Canaanites, that is, the black Africans. And this notwithstanding contrary geographic and genealogical evidence as presented in the Bible, the American educator Henry Parker Eastman described this exegetical sleight of hand. Eastman quoted the biblical passage at length to show that it was not Ham, the ancestor of the blacks, who was cursed with slavery by Noah, and then he continued. Forced by the plain teaching of the Bible to abandon his original position, the modern Christian hastily seeks shelter for his brother in black, in the theory that it was Canaan whom Noah cursed and changed into a Negro. Quotation reveals plainly the reason for the belief in a black Canaan. It supported the belief that blacks were destined for slavery. If an examination of the biblical indicated that Ham, the ancestor of blacks through Cush, was not the one cursed with slavery, then the modern Christian hastily seeks shelter in the theory that it was Canaan whom Noah cursed and changed into a Negro. It was Canaan who was cursed with slavery in the Bible, so Canaan must be the one who was changed into a Negro, despite any evidence to the contrary. That the situation of black slavery explained the Canaan-based interpretation was clearly stated by Edward Drummond, England's consul general to Morocco during the years 1829 to 1844. He recorded a Jewish belief in North Africa that Canaan was black. The general idea among Jews at this day seems to be that wherever Canaan or the children of Canaan are mentioned in the Holy Writ, black people are designed. Drummond Hay explained the reason for this belief as the blacks of Africa have been made this day as slaves. So the Jews have supposed that all those who were thus enslaved were descendants from Canaan, and vice versa. All descendants from Canaan were blacks. Do you see this circular reasoning? Oh, you're enslaved? You're Canaan. You're black? You're from Canaan. Again, this has nothing to do with history, demography, genetics, none of that. Keep reading. Others posited a black Canaan for other reasons, but as I show in Excursus 3, these explanations are historically, genealogically, or etymologically problematic. In other words, there is no evidence for a claim that Canaan was black or that blacks descended from Canaan. The only reason for thinking so is based on an invented interpretation of the biblical story meant to justify the existing situation of black slavery. An invented interpretation of the biblical story. So a lot of these UA members and Christians of today that invoke this over and over again, they are getting this from they're getting this from an imagined interpretation. Now look at that. The basis of their claims come from an eisegetical claim, not grounded in history, not grounded in paleontology, not grounded in genealogy, genetics, material culture, in an invented interpretation of the biblical story meant to justify the existing situation of black slavery. As Edward Blyden said, they proved the application of the curse from the condition of the race, and then argued the necessity of the condition from the application of the curse. Does not such reasoning marvelously involve what logicians call the argumentum in orbum, which is the circular reasoning? Or as Du Bois succinctly put it when debating those who claim that Canaanites were Negroes based on the curse of Ham belief. Are not Negroes servants, ergo? In some, the curse of Ham as justification for the enslavement of blacks, which first appeared in the Near East and then in Western Europe, emerged finally and most vociferously in America, where it commonly found beginning in 1700. Its popularity is indicated not only by the quantity of its occurrences in the form of the curse, in print, but also by the amount and variety of refutations leveled against it. The form of the curse that predominated in America is decidedly of the dual variety, in which black skin is seen as a divine mark of servitude and degradation. The symbolism of the color black had long been associated with evil, and Christian exegesis of the Bible had transferred that symbolism from abstract notions of color of black to human beings. As I explained below, nevertheless, the amount of intensity of the application of the dual curse in America goes beyond an inherited symbolic meaning of the color. It reflects and justifies rather the social situations of blacks in the country during the era of slavery and the Jim Crow period. A comparison of the references to the curse in Europe and America tells the same story. Use of the curse of Ham and Cain to justify black slavery as opposed to explaining dark skin alone is much greater in America than in Europe. Similarly, the emphasis on biblically enslaved Canaan as opposed to Ham as the one who was cursed occurs far more frequently in America than in Europe. All these factors are reflective of the position of blacks in America. All right, so that is, I believe that's the summation. So that might be the end. That's the end of the chapter. As you can clearly see, the curse of Canaan was used in America to justify the enslavement of people based on skin color, based on them being black. And they also used it to disparage black skin and pretty much denigrate black people or people of African descent in America. Now you guys have the history behind it. You have the sources behind it. So anybody coming with that racist dogma, you can call them out. All right. That's the curse of Canaan and its history in America. All right. With that, I'm going to say Shabbat Shalom. I hope this was insightful. I hope you guys took notes and you learned something from this. Again, if any modern Christian says, hey, we Hamites, pull them to the side and let them know the history behind the use and the utilization of that term here in America and why they use that term. That term is not a term of endearment. That term and classification was used to denigrate and disparage us. It's time to break away from it. We Shemites, man. Yap, gang.
This for them Fords, Oldsmobiles, Buicks, and them Chevys. Cadillacs, 24 inches high, sliding on Pirellis. Candy coated gloss, airbags, lower, scrape the belly. Beat in the trunk, turning buildings into confetti. Country grammar like Nelly, we speak with a drawl. But slow or something like in our slabs, we creepin' with crawl. Hit a button, you know the roof and screens fall. Jamming screwed up Tila, though we ain't too tired to ball. Root beer candy coated Caprice flipping like I'm the law. See that shirt on that bop, got enough knock to pop it off. Old head cats telling me, Charlie, you need to knock it off. I just did look again, see I'm about to pop the bra. I'm from the dirty third coast where we keeping it raw. Your slabs up against I just think that you're beating us now. Repip your rocker slabs down in the south, be nasty, y'all. Think that it's something, just wait till we pull out them classic calls. Candy paint drip like it was fresh out of molasses jars. Futuristic, got customization is way past the stars.
I got my mind on form, but I'm swinging bumper grill. Got my mind on form, but I'm swinging bumper grill. I'm swinging them bumper grill. I'm swinging them bumper grill. I'm swinging them bumper grill. Them bumper grill. I got my mind on form, but I'm swinging bumper grill. Got my mind on form, but I'm swinging bumper grill. I'm swinging them bumper grill. I'm swinging them bumper grill. I'm swinging them bumper grill. Them bumper grill.
Ain't no need to asking, boy, yes, I'm a winner. Bourbon on 24 with VVS in a spinner. Leather seats in my name and diamonds pressed in the center. The only time this whip kick arrest is in the winter. Never a beginner, I'm a ice-stock champ. Leave the bracelet on my wrist and get the ice-stock crab. I'm a dog and my whoop is barking nothing but free on. Cause it's powered by an ice-stock amp.
Hold up, Rappy Rick. I'ma slow it down and bring it back for my boy Brandon Chisholm in Tyler, Texas. Remember the first CD I ever got on? Ain't no hoes barred, baby.
Ain't no need to asking, boy, yes, I'm a winner. Bourbon on 24s with VVS in the spinner. Leather seats and my name and diamonds rest in the center. And the only time this whip get caressed is in the winter. Never a beginner, I'm a ice-stock champ. Lift the bracelet on my wrist and get your ice-stock cramp. I'm a dog and my woofers barking nothing but free on. Cause it's powered by an ice-stock amp. Platinum princess cuts or invisible sex. Going up against us is like you're making invisible beds. You can't see us. Envious niggas wanting to be us. Untamed already off of the chain. You can't free us from the side. Platinum metal VVS diamonds in my swinging around in my slab. Showing boys what we buy. Think you got anybody better? We'll put up your cheddar. Then tell them Charlie boy said get up, go get them and bring them by. Dead's in the Lone Star State. Hurting Gavin, motherfucker, everything is still great. Country boy not from the city, but me be making my way. Because me grind and me hustle, me making my pay. From no ice to ice up, broadcast to priced up. Me slang and CDs in the hood like me or selling white stuff. Multi-million-dollar in the price, keeping the white cup in the palm of me force. And the palm to draw the light up. Clean from head to toe, shine from my ear to my grill. Got pneumonia and got my day and keeping my chest on chill. Says the comfort come down and see that's how we live. Diamonds in our mouth, know what I'm talking about the price. Man, Rapid Rick. They keep having to call out the mixtape mechanic. Man. No.
That's why they call me versatile child. I try to give you a little bit of everything.
Hey, before I get out of here, y'all, I want you guys to do me a favor. I want y'all to do me a big favor, right? I want y'all to go to my brother Hebrew of Israel's channel and subscribe to his channel. The brother's going to be dropping science, genetics, you know what I'm saying? He's going to be dealing with philology or philology, language groups, language phylums. He's going to be breaking that down, man. So if y'all want that science, y'all want that knowledge, you know what I'm saying? You thirsty for information, you hungry for information, we going to feed you. You understand? We ain't them other channels. We not Wendy Williams. We bringing source material. These other cats are just bumping their gums. It's all about rhetoric. But here at the source, my brother Hebrew of Israel, head over to his channel. You can actually go to my channel, click the playlist, and look up the breakdowns by Hebrew of Israel breakdowns. and you're going to be able to get the link to his channel. So I want you guys to go over there now, stop what you're doing, and click subscribe. All right? Y'all already know how we rocking, man. The 7 candlesticks up, and I've been telling you niggas, it ain't a debate. It's a stick up. Gang.